Very good to see you. We are still waiting for a deal before a debt ceiling default. We are recording this right now on, of course, a Thursday morning, a lot of moving parts, but the federal government now only has a few days before an economically devastating default on its debt. We knew this day would come because we hit that limit back in January, but the big fear is that federal spending will stop. And a lot of us do rely on Social Security and Medicare. So how should we prepare for the eventuality that the government defaults on its debt?
Well, that's a great question, Aaron. And as you're aware, we talked a little bit is that the House did pass the bill, but we don't know if the Senate's going to pass it. We by the time this airs, we'll probably know. But it's going to be out there. We have a lot to be considered. And what I will tell you for people that we generally hear on the news, that it's always a worry when it comes to any kind of debt talks, is that Social Security or Medicare, Medicaid is going to stop. That's paid from a different fund, from a different process. That will not stop. Not
Mhm.
that the debt ceiling is not critically important because it could, throw the financial markets into a tailspin. But as far as Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, that's not something we should have to worry about with the debt ceiling.
All right, so now let's talk about what does give me anxiety, though, Larry. Here's a look at the US debt clock. We see it ticking up and ticking up. Besides the $31 trillion in debt, what stands out to you here?
There's a lot.
Right.
Aaron, this part here is probably gives me the most anxiety because, if we look at the national debt, we show $31.8 trillion. That's a number that we really can't fathom. But two other important numbers there is debt per citizen, $95,000 debt per citizen right beside the debt or the debt clock where it says 31.8, and debt per taxpayer, which just basically means not all of us are paying taxes. Some people based on income may not pay taxes. What I've been looking at, I've been in practice for 17 years. If we can go over and look at the debt clock time machine, if we can go back to 2008, if we look at there, we had a $10 trillion. So, I mean, I know that's, a dozen years ago, but we've gone from 10 to 31.8 and continued to grow. And that 200, if we look at debt per taxpayer, then was 94,000, now it's $250,000.
Hmm.
If we can go back to current debt clock, if I can have you to do that and scroll down to the bottom of the debt clock, something that's been bothering me for a long time is when you see we also have Social Security liability, Medicare liability, U.S. unfunded liabilities, $188 trillion. It makes the 31 trillion look small. And a
Hmm.
big concern, liability per taxpayer over $500,000. So in our planning, we always talk about the tax man's gonna cometh. We've got to get prepared to just like we would for our own personal finances, get the spending under control. But we have to prepare that when we are in retirement or just in our normal daily business, we're going to be paying more taxes in the future.
Hmm. Hmm. Start tax planning now. Well said.
Oh, it's so important. And I apologize if I can have you go back to the debt clock just one
Sure.
more time.
Hmm.
Is the debt ceiling's not passed yet, but if we can go back to the top of that screen, going back to where the future debt clock time machine is,
Hmm.
the spot would allow us to go out to 2027. It was just a 4 short years from now. This is not including any new spending. We're going to show that it's when it pops up here, it's $42 trillion, almost 43. And our liabilities, debt per taxpayer is 308,000. So that number's growing, and we're spending, some would say, as drunken sailors up in Congress. So I think we all need to kind of get control of that.
Yeah, well said. So, what should we be considering now then? More defensive investments?
Another great question. What we really, in our practice, we've already we're prepared for that. So whether the markets are up or down or sideways, we're already preparing for our clients. We've already got them diversified in ways that we're going to be fine regardless. So it really is just about making sure you plan your work and work your plan, and make sure you have that devised in a plan that includes all areas of the market.
Yeah, well said. Well, Larry, if somebody does want to talk through these headlines with you, because I'm sure there are some people who are feeling anxious, or maybe they'd like your help designing a financial plan, what's the best way to reach you?
They can give us a phone call at 615-216-1048, or they can email us at info@sfabridge.com. We'd love to
Perfect.
help them.
All right, Larry, thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.